Boom, boom, boom. We're live, everybody. Hey, welcome to Red TV in Conversation for this very special day, called National Philanthropy Day. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. If you're here for the first time, hey, thanks for showing up. We appreciate it. If you're here because you've seen the show before, I really appreciate that because you know what you're in for. We're in for lots of fun here today. So thank you so much for joining us here. Here's the sales pitch, everybody. If you like what you see, just share it with your network. Simple as that. You know, it's all about lifting all the boats, trying to do some good in the world. That's the whole purpose of Red TV, amplifying those great people and stories that are doing great things around the world. So today is a very special day because November 15th is National Philanthropy Day, and that's celebrated generally around the world. Google it, have a look at it, where it came from, all that kind of stuff. And really the whole purpose of it is to make sure that we're celebrating and amplifying those people that are doing great things in the world when it comes to giving back, making a difference, nonprofit charity, but also from the corporate side of it. I mean, there's a lot of organizations now that part of their business model is really giving back and making a difference in the world. And so I think it's so important that we amplify those people, ones that are out there trying to do some good, using their business as a force for good. I had a great conversation yesterday with Jean Olwang from Virgin Unite, and we had a great conversation about business as a force for good. It's one of the things that Richard Branson and the Virgin brand has always talked about, using your business, and I mean, that's where profits come from, or philanthropy comes from. I mean, if you have to have profits to make philanthropy work. Volunteerism and giving of your time and so on is so important. And at the same time, the economics of it is stark, which means that we need business to join us in this call. So, hey, if you're watching live right now, let me know where you are and where you're tuning in from and so on. I kind of I shouldn't say throw this show together. I don't throw shows together. I bring shows together. I bring people together. But I really wanted to do today, and I didn't realize how quickly it came up upon me. So here we are. It's November 15th already. Here we are, so close to the end of 2022. And I want to make sure that this day is always recognized here at Red TV. For a number of reasons. Very passionate about using my voice as a force for good, using Red TV to lift all the boats and try to amplify stories that are doing good. Just makes my heart feel better, makes my brain feel better, makes me feel better as a human being. So I hope that resonates with you somehow, some way. Doesn't mean you have to get involved in global issues. Sometimes that's a little overwhelming. Just start in your backyard. Start right in your hometown. Start somewhere where you think you can make a difference, and certainly try to reach out and support those that resonate with you, that are trying to make a difference in the world. We got a couple of cool people coming up today. One of them is such a good friend. I haven't even talked. He's sitting backstage right now, and I haven't even talked to him because I was kind of scrambling around here trying to get the show together. So I apologize for that. Here we go. So let's just see who's tuning in here. Melody, always good to see you from Massachusetts. So appreciate the work that you're doing. PTSD, that subject matter. You always recognize stories of veterans and people that have made a difference in the military, and in that sphere of mental health and wellness, PTSD. And so you write some great articles. So thank you for always doing that. It's so important that we tell that story as well. So thank you for doing that, Melody. Always appreciate you being here. Let's see who else is here. Kevin, good to see you. Boom. Indianapolis. Always like the fact that you like the boom part. I really like that. Hey, look at this. Crystal, good to see you. Nice to see you. Yeah, I follow you on LinkedIn. So really nice to see you. Thanks for tuning in. And of course, look, come on. Jacqueline Way. Hello. 365 Give. One of my favorite people on the planet right there. Please check her out right there. Jacqueline, I'll see if I can send you the link so that you can join us as well. I know you have a really, really busy schedule. So thank you for tuning in right now and so on. I'll try to get that link to you here as we chat with some of our guests here. Hey, let's not beat around the bush here of who we have on tap here. I'm pretty pumped always to talk to this guy. He's just doing amazing work. Him and his family sacrificing so much to do what they do, and they do it because that's their purpose. That's what they feel they're driven to do, and just amazing things. So right now he's traveling the world as we speak. He's actually, I believe, I don't even know where he is. I think he's in the UK. He's so busy. He's flying around all the time, but he's normally on the border of Ukraine and Moldova, as where he does a lot of his work. And it's just an absolutely fantastic story. So let me see if I can bring up some information about what we're talking about here. Hope4.org is the brand that we're talking about here. Brand, it's the wrong word. We're talking about the idea of celebrating organizations that are doing good, and hope4.org is one of those organizations right now. So I'm going to see if I can bring this guy on here. I'm not doing again, I think I just got rattled before the show because it's such an emotional day. It's such an emotional day for me, and I'm always so pumped to have this guy join me. Please, would you, everybody, really welcome Chris Lomas. How are you?
I'm good, thank you so much, Peter. Do you know, I was rattled as well because the internet in this building isn't great. So I'm in Manchester, England. So
that's where you are. That's
yeah.
where you are. Yeah, I was trying to figure. I knew you were in the UK somewhere. I said United Kingdom when I put out the post. I said I don't even know where he is. It could be London, Manchester. There you go, home of Oasis. That's a fantastic.
Exactly. I'm here at a anti-trafficking conference, a 3-day conference. I'm part of a leadership summit for an organization called Hope for Justice. And it's an organization that as of the 1st of November, I've partnered with to bring their expertise into Moldova. So our work around anti-trafficking has just taken a turbo boost by working alongside these guys.
Well, thank you for thank you for the work that you do. For starters, here we're celebrating National Philanthropy Day. I couldn't think of a better person I wanted to connect with. It's just a great excuse to see you, my friend. I got so much. We have so much to catch up on. It's not even funny. We have so much to do. But I just wanted to point out to everybody, I have up there hope4.love. It's also hope4.org as well. I love the .love because it just says hope for love, and I think that's a fantastic way. Let's jump right into this, Chris, because I'm hoping that we'll have more of a conversation here with people. If you have any questions, by the way, if you're a fan of what Hope For is all about, and Chris, please put some comments and questions in the comments area, and we'll see if we can get to those for you as well. Talk about let's just talk about generally philanthropy, giving back, making a difference. I mean, it's a big day. You're part of this you're on the front lines. You're doing some incredible work. Hopefully I'm going to play a clip for you from my conversation yesterday. From someone who knows a little bit.
I can't wait to hear how that.
Yeah, she is an amazing connection. But a person who's really supportive of Ukraine and the work that you're doing, and she actually does a little shout out there for as well. Let's talk about philanthropy, giving back, making a difference. What does that mean to you and your family? You're so dedicated to it. So I know it's a big question, but why is this?
It's one that resonates with me, Peter, because just to give this some context, last week I was in Kherson. So I was there before the liberation. So we made 2 trips over the border into Mykolaiv and Kherson. I called it in my first video Kherson, but then I got corrected by the locals. And we spent time with the military. We had a military escort. And the reason for that is because they wanted to get us as close to occupied territory as possible. And if you follow me on social media, you'll see certainly one or two of the clips. You could hear the bombs dropping in the background. Bullets were flying. We were really as close to the front as the military would dare take us. There was one clip that I posted, I think it was this morning, with the air raid siren going off, and during the video, a Russian drone was shot out of the air whilst I was recording the video. The reason I mention that is because 𝗏𝗏 is treading in territory that some wouldn't dare go. You know me, you know my journey, you know my heart. I would rather die for these people than live a life of comfort drinking coffee in this case, Manchester. But what I want to say, though, is none of this is possible without the generosity of others. If I had the money and had the understanding that I had now, then I would just be looking for organizations and people that I could just invest in, because we ain't got long in this world, Peter. And we talk a lot about legacy now. What's someone's legacy? What's an organization's legacy? And we don't ask for much. Crumbs, in most cases, we just ask for a cup of coffee. But what are we leaving behind? Whose lives are we impacting? I've given up my life. I've given my right to life in terms of what we traditionally call comfort and what our ambitions are. But on this special day, National Philanthropy Day, I just want to give a big shout out to those people that equip us and equip other organizations and other people like us to do what they can't do. Not everyone can be in Moldova, not everyone can be in Ukraine, but every one of us can equip someone who is able, not even willing, just able to do that stuff and make a difference. And we're all in it. These philanthropists is as much part of my journey and the rescuing people and transforming lives as I am, because they're the ones that make it possible. Otherwise, I'd just be playing my guitar, sitting on the couch singing 𝗏𝗏 all day, hoping something would happen.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with playing guitar. Just let's keep that. Let's keep that clear here. It's all good playing guitar.
Oh, I love it.
I know you do. I want to keep it light with you because, again, your subject matter is so serious, and you just talked about it. I mean, you're on the front lines. They're in, again, Ukraine and Moldova, that general area, for everyone who understands. Again, the purpose of you being there, and when you first started, I know it worked out to be again, for trafficking and so on, and it still remains that. I'm hoping that most people will understand that the refugee part for Ukrainian refugees just unfortunately happened because of this illegal, immoral war and conflict and invasion that's happening right now. So, and you didn't step away from that. You stepped up to it and you recognized it and so on. And I know that, online, I've seen a little bit of it. I know you experience it more. You've taken a little bit of heat for that, where people might think that you're spending your time and so on. But talk to me about that. Just talk about the fact that you're there to help. You're not trying to differentiate between the people who need help that you're reaching out to. So just explain that so that people that hear on National Philanthropy Day understand that, giving back and making a difference.
Exactly.
Is broad and wide.
Yeah, when we came out 21 months ago, our mandate was just two things. It was to address poverty and address human trafficking. And then the bombs dropped, and it's well documented. Our proximity, our windows were shaking. It was like thunder outside the window, and we just had to respond. We were compelled to respond. And the interesting thing is, this isn't political. This isn't about making a political statement. This is about discussing victims of war, victims of human trafficking, victims of poverty. We're not apolitical. I'm apolitical, I think, is the correct way of saying it. I just hate injustice, and I hate people being victims. And whilst I have breath in my lungs, I'm able to do something about it. What hinders me is cash. What hinders any organization like us? I just want to make a point, and this isn't to be argumentative, but I read a report the other day of whatever it is, the 100 billion that's been donated in the context of the war today, only about 3% has ended up serving the people that the donors intended it to do. And so this was it was an independent report, and there was a big call out for local NGOs like us who, and you know me, when someone donates to us, it's in real time and makes real time difference and makes real life difference. And again, I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just saying that we live and breathe on the generosity of others. Everything people sees on social media and across print and different things about what Hope4, for example, is doing, is only possible because of philanthropists in whatever form they take. Whether someone's buying us a cup of coffee at £3 a month, they're a philanthropist. They're someone who's saying, okay, what I have is yours because I believe in what you're doing. And really that's been what's been important to us over the last 21 months is just demonstrating transparency and integrity and just saying, okay, I think I've told you, my son once famously said to me before I came out, you're moving to Moldova for a lifestyle. No, Max. You moved to Miami for a lifestyle. You moved to Moldova to change lives. But philanthropy is what it's all about. Generosity is what it's all about.
It is so well said, my friend. And I wanted you to jump right into this for us, if you will. You were just, again, you're back and forth across the border, which is just unbelievable. I'm talking about the border of Ukraine. You're seeing the impact. You were there. Again, I want to play you a clip of also from someone who was just there, and I think you would appreciate the clip. It's a little, it's a few minutes long, but I think you'd appreciate seeing a little bit of it to know that you're not obviously far from alone of what you're doing there and finding partners there. Give us an update, generally speaking, of what you're doing specifically in Ukraine, and then maybe we can even add of how someone can help you right now. So just give us a quick update of what your people are doing back and forth right now.
Okay, so twofold. Regions like Kherson have been cut off. They were one of the first regions to be targeted. It was very strategic location for Russia. And we had the opportunity to go in the villages that immediately around the periphery. And one village, for example, 1,500 residents, most of them fled naturally because of the proximity. We were passing buildings that had been completely destroyed, bullet holes everywhere. And I've not shared everything already, but we got taken to a cellar underneath the school, which itself had been bombed. And the remaining residents of 30 are living there. So they've lived there since February 24th, one of which is an 81-year-old woman, one of which is a young man with Down syndrome.
Yeah, I saw I just wanted to, I saw that picture the interaction with the 81-year-old person, and I made a comment to that effect. I mean, I just wanted to add to that. That one hit me really hard.
Yeah.
Just because us in the West, when we think generally when we're 80, we're quote unquote, we're retired, we're near our families, we're enjoying our days, we're relaxing and so on. And here's a person who has basically everything taken away from her and sitting in a shelter, if you will, in a basement at 81 years old. It just broke my heart to see it. But continue.
And you saw the video, Peter, of her smiling. She was glad to see us. And so our plan was to take food to support those communities because they've been cut off. They don't have access to food. They don't have access to water. But then, spending time with the troops, we realized that they're hungry too. And so hence the second trip, we went back and just supported them, went to some garrisons. And again, this isn't about being political. This is about supporting people who are putting their lives on the line. Recently we had Armistice Day, which acknowledges the sacrifice of others. And in the book of John, it says, no greater love as anyone, that they lay their lives down for their friends. And these people are laying their lives down, whether we like the politics or not. They're laying their lives down. And so we will always gravitate toward people who like us for different reasons have said, it's not my life. It's his life in us. And so we were just, it was a privilege to go down and support people. And to go back to your point a few minutes ago, Peter, we've lost donors as a result. People have said, are you spending too much time focusing on on Ukraine. And we've had this conversation in the past. No, I used to work 8-9 hours. Now I work 16-17 hours. This isn't a dilution of what we came to do. This is our humanitarian response, and dare I say, humanitarian responsibility to support lives.
Yeah, well said, my friend. And again, I really wanted you to be here just because I love what you do, and I love your heart. I know that you're doing, and it's a representation of what people can do. Again, that's more of a global perspective. Can you add, if you will, some perspective on the idea that people can start just by helping, again, just like you said, a coffee a day with you or something local to them. Just get involved somehow. The spirit of philanthropy, the spirit of giving back.
Yeah.
Can you talk to that?
And I'm glad you asked the question, Peter. And first and foremost, it's always a pleasure and a privilege and an honor to be on the show with you. But we're not the only NGO. And the Ukraine context isn't the only issue. I've spent 2 days here in a anti-trafficking conference. We've got another day tomorrow, listening to stories from Uganda to Ethiopia and all over the world where Hope for Justice operates, listening to stories of young girls being trafficked and young boys being exploited and adults. This is and it's just one example. Then we have all of the other issues around in terms of starvation and humanitarian disasters, or environmental disasters. But people are hurting everywhere. My heart isn't restricted to Moldova and Ukraine. My heart is for anyone who's hurting. And so I've said before, if you don't believe in what we're doing, find someone else, but do something. I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and I said, look, the answer to world hunger or world poverty is all of us responding. Whether each month we receive a donation from a young girl who donates her pocket money. And it's around £3 a month. And it moves me every time it comes because, that girl models generosity because that's her pocket money. And we've got to model something. We've got to model to those around us. We've got to model something that just lights a fire, And
Yes.
and we can all be a part of that if we just all respond. Here's a point. Check out what the UK and the US, for example, spent on Halloween one night.
I can't imagine.
Billions. You're talking billions. 500 million, I think, in the UK, and I think about 10 billion in the US on one night. And we're surrounded with all of these problems. Now, I'm not saying people can't have a good time in different things, but our value system has to be reevaluated to understand where we're placing things. We've just had firework night and just lighting money and watching it flash and in the context of war as well. So
right.
I was recording videos with bombs falling in the background.
Yeah.
And I immediately became aware that since I've been here in the UK, I've heard fireworks go off, and it immediately hit me that that's someone else's reality where it's a life and death sound,
Yeah, absolutely. I never belittle the fact that you are right there on that line, and millions of people around the world, certainly millions of people are experiencing this right now, and this disconnect and so on. Chris, I know you're a big fan of. We're trying to support everybody and lift all the boats. And I have another guest that just joined us, and she only has a little tiny window of time. I hope you don't mind if we bring her in.
No,
she is one of. I'm going to tell you, she is just a rock star. She's one of my favorite people out there doing great stuff in the world. She works at the UN. God love her for the work that she does, international food, agricultural development. I think I got that right. IFAD. I'm going to get her to explain a little bit more, but I want to bring her on. I asked her at the last minute, and I thought she was over in Cairo at 𝗡27, and here she is in New York, at the UN, and I'm like, she goes, so what time can I come on? Anyway, I have to bring on this beautiful soul because I just so appreciate her time being here. Let's see if we can bring her in right now. Hélène Pappier, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I hope you
It's
can
so
hear me because I'm unfortunately outside. I'm in front of the UN building.
Yeah, I see that. I so appreciate you taking the time to be here. Thank you so much for doing this. I know how busy you are, and I just can't thank you enough for all the work that you do. So, and it's so good to see you. I haven't chatted with you in a long time. So, are you good?
Yeah,
Are you healthy? You and your son is okay. Everyone's good.
absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. All right, you again. I want to make sure everyone knows exactly what you're doing here. I mean, you're part of the communications team, advocacy for International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, for the United Nations, and I know you follow COP27 a lot. It is National Philanthropy Day. I know your heart and your spirit is always about making a difference and giving back, and how governments and nonprofits and for-profits can all come together and collaborate on that. Can you talk to us just a little bit about IFAD and then about this idea of how philanthropy and how we can all play a role as global citizens? I think it's important that people understand it's not just over there. It's everywhere, and we can all participate. Can you add to that a little bit about your work, and then why is it important for us to really know more about it?
Sure. So let me know if you can hear me. So
Yes.
I'm currently directing I'm directing the global communications and advocacy for the UN specialized agency, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, that is both a financial institution, an international financial institution, and a development agency. And our work really focuses on ensuring that the rural populations and smallholder farmers and the most vulnerable rural populations, who are responsible for feeding a third of the planet, continue being able to do so in healthy and ethical conditions. These populations are suffering the brunt of the current crisis, the Ukraine war for sure. They've just overcome and are working hard to overcome the shocks of the COVID pandemic, as well as other pandemics that are playing out. And, when we're in fragile situations, that leads to crises. And we have an increasing number of crises that are coming out across the globe. And so this is impacting the rural populations very directly, and it's impacting their capacity to continue feeding themselves and their capacity to feed the rest of the world. We're seeing really very strong challenges when it comes to strengthening food systems, and our food systems.
Okay, we're losing a little bit, everybody. It's okay. Hélène, I think we lost some of your audio. Hélène, I think we just lost some of your audio. She can't hear me. I think we lost some of your audio right now, just so that you know. She can't hear us right now. Let me see, people. No. She can't hear us right now. I apologize, Hélène. I can't hear you right now. Chris, are you here? You're not hearing anything. Is it not just
No,
me?
unfortunately not. It's a shame.
We've lost your audio, Hélène. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we can't hear you right now. Yeah, I can't hear you. Oh, we lost the audio. It's normally we lose the video, but we've lost the audio. We can't hear each other. Stay there though. Stay there. Chris, I just wanted to just add some thoughts to that. Again, she mentioned about Ukraine. I mean, again, I think people don't understand that Ukraine is the breadbasket, of Eastern Europe and so on. And of course, you can relate to the idea that a lot of rural communities now in Ukraine are being affected by food shortage and the inability to farm and do what they normally do. Correct?
Well, I sit on a number of the UNHCR task forces, one of which is food security. And so we are hypersensitive to what's going on across the border and how it's impacting Ukraine, but also neighboring countries like Moldova and the rest of the world. I mean, this is having a material impact. And it's interesting. Peter, because this isn't even announced. I mean, you're getting it hot off the press, and I hope Oakland International don't mind me saying this on this platform, but there's an organization called Oakland International in the UK who care a lot about what's going on, and they joined us a few months ago, and they have rented a 1,100 square meter, a brand new warehouse for us for 5 years. They've just covered the bill for 5 years. They, along with incredible organizations like Bid Food and the food service industry across the UK, are bringing humanitarian aid in. But this is where it gets interesting. To support Ukraine and neighboring countries like, for example, Moldova, we are then shipping back locally produced produce by small developers, and we've got a very strategic, very large plan to bring humanitarian aid in, then take trucks back to the UK twofold: A, to support the economic growth or recovery, should I say, of Ukraine, but also to service the refugees who've been displaced by this conflict who are residing in UK. And this is just the beginning. This isn't just for the UK, but it's for Europe. And this is what Hopeful's is about. This isn't about putting Band-Aids on wounds that are hemorrhaging. This is about saying, okay, how are we a part of the recovery? How are we a part of providing a tangible solution to Ukraine, to Moldova, to other emerging countries, if that's the correct word, who are suffering as a result of this. As you know, Moldova is Europe's poorest country with 80% poverty, inflation at 32%, fuel prices up by 500 to 600%. And those that had nothing before have even less today. And I've said, and this goes for Ukraine as well, people have got two decisions this winter where temperatures get as low as -30. They either starve or they freeze, or both. And people will die, and that's the challenge that faces us as an organization. And this isn't no guilt trip. This is just the responsibility that we bear collectively to stand in the gap and make a real-time difference in people's lives. But that's the gravity of it.
Well, I think what's so fascinating here, and I'm just trying in the background here to get Hélène to rejoin us if we can, and of course. Shame on me, Chris. I knew she was so struggling with the time there. I didn't have a chance to introduce you properly, and I want to make sure that you guys get introduced. But again, the point of bringing those two worlds together is this is the example of, you just described it, food shortages, the inability to local produce and local farmers to do what they normally do and have food to actually move back and forth where it needs to move in the regular cycle of things in the supply chain. And very similar to what Hélène talks about around the world is that rural farmers and the ability for small farmers to continue growing food and growing for their communities. That's a big deal. So you just described it right there best of it. I mean, it's happening everywhere. But bravo to the organization. Another shout out again. Who is that organization?
Oakland International. Dean Atwell is the CEO, and it's a family-run business. And they've done more than I could even spend time to tell you about. They've been true heroes in terms of their response. And there's many like them. And so Dean Atwell, he would be a great guest for you one day, because he is a true philanthropist. We didn't know each other until a few months ago, but he'd been watching our journey and reached out and said, we have a plan. And this is the great thing about these platforms and what you do for us as well, Peter, is you give us a voice and people are watching. People are observing from the peripheries and sometimes they want an alternative. And we were discussing today how a lot of donors now aren't looking to the INGOs, the big internationals. They're looking to the local guys who can effectively translate aid in real time. And Dean Atwell and his organization, Oakland International, and Bid Food have been a major supporter of Hope4, bringing truckloads of food across. They're part of the solution. We just get to facilitate other people's philanthropy.
Well, that's kindly put. We just get to facilitate it. Again, people on the ground, the grassroots part of it is where all of the where all of the action is really happening. And I don't want to ever take away from it's an interesting word, take away from philanthropy. The word itself, I'm fascinated with it. It's been around for like 5,000 years or something. It's for the love of humanity, but of course, it's been put into a sort of a posh aristocratic feel where it's people in cocktail dresses and tuxedos writing big checks, and that's important stuff. Of course it is. The financial part of it, you just mentioned an organization that steps up, but it's also the people on the front line that are making a difference and so on. I wanted to do a couple shout outs here because they're cheering for you, my fine friend. I wanted to, acknowledge Crystal here, one of my 5 charity books, also Hope for Justice. Absolutely great cause. Appreciate that. Thank you for tuning. Look at this. I just love this lady. I just sent her the link. I hope she gets the chance to join us here. And yes, unfortunately, Melody, we did have technical difficulties, but I do have Ellen working on it in the background. So I gotta get myself a producer. Chris, is what I gotta do. I gotta get it.
I know a good guy.
Do you know anybody?
Yeah, I really do.
Do you know anybody? What I'm going to try to do now is see if I had a great conversation yesterday with a beautiful soul that I met in 2014, and she was just recently in Ukraine, and I asked her about that. I wanted to ask her about some advice for smaller charities and organizations that are trying to partner. Jean Olwang is the CEO for the founding president and CEO of Virgin Unite. So she works hand in hand with Richard Branson, and there are 50,000 plus people around the world that just do amazing things with Virgin Unite. And she wrote a book recently called Partnering. And I think it's a fascinating book, Chris, and it's all about what we're talking about here is the ability to bring together some great forces of good and do some good in the world. And so I asked her about, what advice would you give to someone like you? And so I wanted to make sure that I mentioned you in the conversation, and she gave some great advice, and I would just love to play it here if I could get a chance to. Let me just see if it's possible here. It's a technology day today, Chris. We're having a technology day. It's if the gods are going to work with us, hopefully it will. But let's just see if I can find this clip that came from yesterday's show, and it's just somebody that I think you would resonate with and connect with, and so on. Let me just quickly see here from my fine friend if it's going to work out here. Here it is actually, and we can stay on the screen as well. So I want you to hear this a little bit. It's a little bit longer. It's a few minutes, so I hope you have a few minutes of time. But I think it's well worth for us to kind of have a look at it and listen to some of the advice that she gives. So let me play this clip for you here, my fine friend. Can you give me a few small tips? I have a friend, for example, his name is Chris Lomas. He has Hope for. I know that you went to Ukraine. He's doing some work on the border of Moldova and Ukraine, for example. Very small charity and so on, trying to figure out how to build partnerships. What tips would you give to a small charity, any charity, by the way, about forging partnerships when it comes to for-profit and the nonprofit? How do you bridge those? What tips could you give?
Firstly, thank him for his work, because I think all of us need to be focusing on how we can support Ukraine right now. So please pass on a huge thanks for his time and effort. And I think with small charities right now, I think that one of the things that they can do, a couple things that they can do. One is think about how they partner with companies, and because small charities are some of the best charities that have that entrepreneurial nimbleness, that are able to make stuff happen, that are able to move quickly. And companies need that, and ability to work with a company where they can create something that the company really feels part of them and they feel part of the company. So the employees of the company feel proud that they're doing something extraordinary. And so we work with tons of small charities on the ground in Ukraine right now, for example, and just so impressed with their ability to move and make stuff happen. So I think that's one thing, is how they can find those incredible partnerships with companies. I think the other second thing I'd say is don't be frightened to merge with some of your competitors. You know, one of the wisest things we did is we took the Carbon War Room and merged it with Rocky Mountain Institute. And it went from a smaller organization to something now that's like a $200 million organization with the two combined. So find out where your skills complement other organizations in the same area and figure out how you can come together. And then the third thing is really, I think we've only scratched the surface on how we can use digital to help scale the work of small charities. So thinking creatively about how you can use digital channels, how you can engage people, how can you make people feel part of what you're doing? Because that's all people want, is we all want the same thing. We want to be part of something bigger. We want to be making a difference and having a meaningful life. And if you as a small charity can give people those avenues, that's an extraordinary gift for people in the world.
Oh, super well said. Yes, people want to feel part of something. And if you can give them the opportunity to do so, most people will. If they just want to know how, if you could show them how to do that. I think that is such a great piece of advice. Speaking about Ukraine, I know you've been there. Can you give us a brief your feelings about that visit and maybe just share your hope and what you saw over there? Just tell us a little bit about that trip, because I know it's very emotional for you. You wrote about it, and it must have been so powerful. It's just been so powerful.
Yeah, I think I held two feelings like strongly when I came back. One was just fury and anger at what's happening on the ground, because it is a complete war on civilians. And just hearing the stories, seeing missiles in the middle of a schoolyard, through a school, a school's roof, sitting with people in villages and just hearing their stories of how their whole lives were ruined for nothing, basically, and just heartbreaking. So I have that fury and that, I guess, fierceness of how can we as human beings get behind the people in Ukraine, because they're really fighting for all of us right now. And then the second feeling that I had was just deep awe and admiration for the Ukrainian people. Just extraordinary how they have come together, the passion they have to fight, not just for themselves and their families, but how they're giving to communities across Ukraine, how much risk they're taking, the partnerships that they've shaped. Like, I know this amazing, he was one of the largest shipping magnates in Ukraine, Andrei Stavnitzer, who decided he was going to dedicate his whole life to helping his people, Ukrainians. And he teamed up with a not-for-profit leader, Olga, because he knew he didn't have that experience. And they came together and they created this amazing center called Help Ukraine on the border. And now they're creating this hospital because thousands of young men are losing their limbs in the war, and others they're mining dead bodies. So when you go to pick up a loved one, your limb gets blown off. And so there's thousands of people going to these small hospitals. And so what Andrei and Olga did is they came together in partnership, and they decided that they weren't just going to build an ordinary prosthetics hospital. They were going to build something they're calling superhumans, so that they give these war heroes, these civilians that are losing their limbs, the dignity that they deserve. And they for prosthetics and for robotics for the world. And that's the kind of audacity, ambition, that you see President Zelensky and his wife having, and the people of Ukraine. So I left there in deep awe and so inspired by them, and just with a fierceness in my belly that we need to support them.
Yeah. And what you're suggesting for us who are just sitting, and not just sitting, but we're watching this unfold. It's falling farther and farther from the headlines. As a global citizen, sitting in Canada, I'm sitting in the United States, I'm sitting in Brazil, Australia. What would you recommend that we try to do? What do we try to do?
So 3 things I'd recommend. You support your politicians to keep on making sure we support Ukrainians to get what they need to win the war. The second thing, if any of you own companies, I would really highly recommend you try to use Ukrainian businesses in your supply chain, because they're still operating from Ukraine, particularly on the tech side as well. But anything, just try to use them and create that economic flow into the country. And thirdly, there's some amazing frontline organizations that people can support directly. Liev Schreiber, the great actor, he actually started something called Blue Check that actually checks out great grassroots frontline Ukrainian charities, so you can go directly to them. So check out Blue Check. It's an amazing online platform. And then there's also great organizations like Superhumans, like GEM, like 𝗡𝘶𝗶, and I think we have them on some of our Unite website. They were in my blog, but great organizations. And the more we can support directly to Ukrainian charities to lift up, the better.
I appreciate that. Thank you for saying that. And again, I'm doing a shout out to my friend Chris Lomas for 𝗡𝘁𝗶, and that's what he's doing. He's working on the border of Ukraine and Moldova, and those are great tips of what you just said, Jean. That again, forming these partnerships, finding these people, finding those organizations that are passionate and they can help you with the financial side of it, where you can be so nimble, so quick, and do the things that need to be done. Because again, sometimes it's hard to turn a giant ship. It's easier to turn a sea-doo. You know, it's a lot easier to kind of be very quick and nimble and be able to do that. So thank you for those tips and so on.
That's like stuff that your friend's doing on the front line. That's where the change's happening in Ukraine right now. So we should be supporting him. We should be supporting others that are able to do things quickly.
Well, there you have it, my friend. What do you say to that? I mean, some amazing things being said in there. And I just wanted to make sure you saw that connection point there. I think you're on their like-mindedness. And what's some of your thoughts of that? Oh, I lost you there. Hold on. I think, here we go. Can you, I think
first, I muted, sorry. First and foremost, thank you. Jean and I need to speak, right? And do you know, because I've been in this conference, I've not had chance to watch that show yet, and I'm glad, because some of the things we were talking about at the beginning about being a solution for, providing a supply chain option for organizations in Ukraine to get their products out of Ukraine into the UK, for example, at higher than average, providing a subsidized supply chain so they can get more margins. We're not trying to take advantage of their situation, but to give them a commercially viable solution. And I was humbled. To hear Jean, and she recognizes, and your comment about turning a big ship was brilliant, because we can react quickly. We can react very quickly to circumstances, to situations. It actually sounds as if she may have visited the same school we did, because because the roof was damaged at the school that we visited, and there were people living underneath, and it resonated with the school that we visited. And yeah, it's just acknowledging the incredible efforts that the Ukrainians are doing on my behalf, on your behalf, Peter, on everyone's behalf. Everyone that's watching this, they're fighting for all of us. And interestingly, the military escort that we were afforded wasn't made up of career soldiers. They were made up of people who have jobs. The commander that was showing us around is a surgeon. He's not a soldier.
Right.
And yet he's there laying his life down and just doing what's necessary for me.
Yeah, you're doing such great work, my fine friend. We have been very fortunate. So I hope that that connection somehow happens somewhere down the road. This is why Red TV exists. It's about bringing great people together. Do you have a couple more minutes with us, my friend? I know you're in the middle of okay, fantastic, because technology has been on our side, thank goodness, and Hélène has been able to rejoin us. So I so appreciate that. There she is. Good to see you. You just don't give up. I know you don't. That's who you are. So before we get cut off again, Hélène, this is Chris Lomas, and Chris, this is 𝗟𝗶𝗃𝗍. I always try to do it correctly. I hope I did that right.
Papper.
Papper. I want to do 𝗟𝗶𝗃𝗍. Oh, Papper. I thought I had that one. I apologize. Thank you for jumping back on for a second here. I appreciate it so much, Hélène. Can you let's just go back into what you were talking about. I think Chris resonated with it so much because, of course, Ukraine being the breadbasket of Eastern Europe and so on. So all of this is upsetting rural farming and the regular production of food, and that's the type of things that we see trickling around the world. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I was saying earlier, I don't know how much you caught on to what I was saying, but what I was saying is that the interconnectivity or interconnectedness between all these global challenges that we're facing, and compounded by the current crisis in Ukraine, which is obviously affecting dramatically the populations, Ukrainian population, but also the populations around, but as well as trickling, and the effects are trickling to rural populations who are have a tremendous responsibility to feed a third of the planet. And the increase of price in grains and fertilizers and inputs is making it very difficult for them to continue providing for themselves and for the rest of the world. And they're just barely overcoming the shocks of the pandemics, and the COVID pandemic being the major one.
Yeah.
And the crises are obviously not helping us. And so this is fragilizing food systems for them, but for the rest of the world. And so we're dealing right now with triple shock, and we need to know how to help them adapt to climate change, to help them adapt to the consequences of these pandemics and to the crises. And so that's what we are doing currently right now at COP, and making sure that their voices, their knowledge, their local realities are brought into the mix. And from what I heard from the different people who've come into the show today, is the importance of making sure that we have a people-centered approach. Populations themselves are the ones who know how to guide decision making in terms of how they can then come up with the solutions to the challenges that we face today. And so this is what needs to be redirected in our multilateralism and diplomacy. And at COP, definitely, I have my whole team there. I was supposed to be with them at Sharm el-Sheikh. I ended up now being in New York at the UN, where I am working also very much linked to the jobs that I've done in peace and security. I'm working on supporting a process, an expert panel on peacekeeping operations. But, this is all very much interlinked in terms of the work we have to do to make sure we have the right people at the right place, and that the populations we serve in the end are heard and listened to in these global decision-making entities and processes right now. And I think it's time for also heads of states to step up and understand the importance of making sure that funding for humanitarian development assistance go hand in hand. We can't continue going into this Band-Aid approach of putting in money when you have a crisis that hits and not looking into mid to long-term sustainability when it comes to development. And so I think that's what's really important in terms of the messages we're driving at COP right now.
Oh man, Chris, I know this all resonates with you. I hope you're enjoying this conversation as much as I am. I love bringing people together. Chris, Hélène is running an organization called 𝗡𝘁𝗶 on the border of Ukraine and Moldova, primarily dealing with human trafficking and so on. But of course, the humanitarian crisis of the war has driven him to now spend time caring for refugees as well, and so on. I don't want to leave COP just yet before I ask you a question about that. Specifically, why should we? I know this is a very broad question, but I think it's so important. It's so negative out there right now. We feel disconnected a lot. We see COP happening. I wonder if people care. Why should we care about what's going on and being said at COP today? Why is that important?
Why is it important? Because really, what I was saying earlier is that, climate change, or this climate catastrophe, is actually affecting each and every one of us. And, for us to be able to continue feeding ourselves, feeding our families, making sure that we are safe, and that we are able to come together on the core issues, which have to do with survival, that we address what is putting this at risk. And climate and the impact of climate change is definitely putting our livelihoods at risk as we move forward. And yet we have so much technology, so many solutions, so many opportunities that we can leverage to make sure that we know how to build our capacity to come forward and to find ways to adapt to this very shaky situation that the world is in. And, people have amazing opportunities to step up. Private sectors, the education sector, and populations themselves have a lot of knowledge to put forward so that together we look for ways to move past these crises. But we have to listen to each other, and we have to make sure that as decision makers come together in huge conferences such as COP, that they take stock of all of these this knowledge that is being shared with them in this global stage in Sharm el-Sheikh.
You are so awesome. I just so appreciate how you put things in perspective for me. I hope that that's all you'd helped me so much. So that's what I'm hoping when we broadcast, as we broadcast, that many people are picking up on the idea that these things are so big, they're so grandiose that we get overwhelmed. But if we pay attention to the fact that that we can all play a role somehow, some way, and you say it so well, so I so appreciate that. It's National Philanthropy Day. I really wanted to reach out to you. You're my go-to person for the UN, and so I really wanted just to get your perspective on that right now as well. Generally speaking, how do we celebrate that and the role that it plays in connecting with all these bigger concepts we're talking about?
Yeah, I wanted to add that, philanthropy is really key to this, right? Well-driven philanthropy. But for philanthropy to be effective, it has to take into consideration, people and what the true needs are and where the funding is actually going to be effective and lead to impact. And I think that has to be driven within the decision-making processes. But it's absolutely critical that we make sure that the funding leads towards, a betterment and dignification for people's day-to-day lives as we all come together to deal with these global challenges that we've talked about. And having spent so much of my time in the field, as you know, in mostly in war zones and in post-conflict zones, the importance of making sure that we take the little resources that are available for international, humanitarian assistance and development and make sure that they get to the right place is key. And we have incredible technology that we've even developed at the International Fund for Agricultural Development to be able to trace the funds more directly through blockchain technology, through, new AI for good capacity to be able to make sure that the money gets to where it needs to go without losses throughout the various processes. And so I think there's a lot of, positive opportunities to be taken into account here. But we do have to have a global commitment to address these issues with populations at the heart of it.
Yeah, people-centric, very people-centric, and using technology as a force for good. Chris, I want to give you an opportunity to have an interaction with this beautiful soul working at the UN. And again, Hélène has worked in many war zones. She has decades of experience, kind of, in very similar situations that you find yourself in, Chris, with being on the border of Ukraine and Moldova. Do you want to ask a question, or do you want to share some insight just while we have her here?
Yeah, I just, first and foremost, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm actually looking around for a plug before the battery dies, but what Hélène has said is resonates so much. This isn't a battle that one organization can fight. We've got to collaborate. We've got to come together. Jean mentioned it on the phone as well. You cannot fight these worldwide issues on your own. You've got to work together. And this traditional idea that NGOs are competitors has to go. So we've got to come together. We've got to work together. For example, Peter, I'm heading down to London on Thursday. I've been asked to deliver a speech at the launch of an app that's called 𝗟𝗶𝘃𝗲. And I've been asked to really communicate in the context of the war. It's a shame we've lost Hélène.
I think she's still there. She's just trying to get
okay.
some of the audio. Keep going, my friend. Keep going.
I hope you don't lose me. I can't find a socket. But so I'm heading down to London to a charity launch called 𝗟𝗃𝗃𝗲, which is an app that tries to pull together philanthropists, at a very local level that provides the issue and then gives people a single platform to respond and to be able to support. We have to collaborate with organizations. I'm not an island. And this is what Jean said. This is what Hélène said, that we've got to come together, because if we come together, and this is everything that this is why we're bringing Hope for Justice into Moldova. This is why we're working with Dean Atwell at Oakland International. And there's other things, other organizations, particularly around anti-trafficking that we want to collaborate with, because these are big worldwide issues that affect us all. And it's going to take a collective response to even begin to scratch the surface. So if I may, if anyone's around White City down in London on Thursday, the tickets are free. Please come along. Perhaps I can post the link to the Eventbrite for people just to come along and support it, because I'm going to be there. We've prepared, Christopher Wright of LinkedIn fame has prepared a video which has already moved people. It's moved the production team. And we just want to make a difference, but it's going to take all of us, whether you're a philanthropist, whether you have money, don't have money, just have time, effort, whatever it takes, we can all play a part in making a radical difference in people's lives.
You got it right, my fine friend. And absolutely, like, we don't want to differentiate this idea that giving up time and energy, these kinds of things, donations, they're all equated into this whole sum, if you will, of helping people. It's not just about writing checks and those kinds of things. I do want to make sure that, again, that people will reach out to you and they can find you here on LinkedIn and on other platforms as well. I want to make sure that I see there's so many great comments in here for you as well. And I want to make sure that, we acknowledge, thank you, Melody, collaboration rather than competition. Absolutely, that we're all together. And yeah, Crystal, thank you for mentioning that's right. Efforts in the front line, Ellen, and we need more actively involved, heart-centered individuals, and much appreciation. Speaking of that right there, over there, fine friend over there, Chris, you're doing good work. And on National Philanthropy Day, I wanted to lift your boat a little bit, lift all the boats a little bit. I so appreciate what you're doing. We need to connect sooner than later. We've missed each other a few times, but love for you. We're going to figure out a way to get you over to North America or vice versa. I got to get over. We'll do something. We'll figure this out. In the meantime,
like I've said, Peter, you're the best friend I've never met, and it's this is for a reason. We were brought together for a reason, and it's to communicate love and as you keep saying, be kind out there. And it just makes me smile every time I hear you say it, because that's what's going to make a change. When we start living with a perspective of just trying to make other people's lives better, that's contagious. That's more powerful than COVID. That's more powerful than any outbreak you can imagine. We just start loving each other selflessly, then wow, things can really, really happen.
Yeah. Again, you're leading the way with action. And I just can't say it enough. I'm so humbled when I try to figure out, we all try to figure out how we can help. How can we help? How can we use our gifts or whatever our skills are to help? And for me, I know it's this. I believe it's this, that the ability to use this technology to amplify these stories. And for other people, it might be, again, just going to your website and joining the coffee a day, or it could be anything. We just want to make sure that everyone understands that National Philanthropy Day is just a day where we can recognize that every single day we could be doing a little something for somebody. It could be in your backyard, or it could be across the globe. Again, we're all in this together, and so on. So listen, my friend, I so appreciate you being here. Can you stick around after? I want to chat with you, so stick around for a little bit. So we'll do that. I want to thank everyone for tuning into this special show. Today was really just about this conversation, the conversation of philanthropy, giving back, making a difference, figuring out how you can get involved, whether it's with Chris, whether it's with organizations that you're involved with locally. Just put that top of mind today and give some thought of how you can be more active in everything that you want to do in your life, and leave that legacy that we talked about. And that's what we're trying to figure out. How do we leave a legacy? How do we leave a positive imprint? And you're doing an amazing job, my fine friend. I wanted to tell you that right up front. Who else is here? Oh, there's just somebody saying hi. So great to hear you again, Chris. So there you go. Not sure who that is, but thank you for tuning in, listening to Chris. And of course, you can find Chris on LinkedIn and actually across all kinds of different channels here. Let me put them up along the bottom here. His LinkedIn is there, but through Facebook and Instagram, and of course the website is hopefor.org is what you can go to and learn more about what he's doing right now. My friend, safe travels to you and to Zoe and, of course, her family. And I know you're there visiting your family. Max is in the house somewhere. I'm sure. I don't know where he is, but
I saw him a couple of nights ago. It was incredible. And Tegan on Thursday. Tegan and I are having a reunion at this event. So I don't know how I'm meant to speak after seeing my daughter after 6 months apart. So we'll see how that goes.
Right. I could agree with you more. That's going to be very emotional. So I'm happy for you, my friend. The safe travels to see your family and stuff.
And thank you for having me on again. It's always an honor.
Absolutely, my fine friend. Everybody else, listen, thank you so much for being here, and thanks for tuning in and sharing this day. And make sure you again try to reach out to somebody or organization, something today. Give some thought to that today. Maybe it's that fine gentleman over there. You can figure out a way to get involved. It's good for the soul, good for the heart. That's why we're here, to lift all the boats, everybody. Hey, and you know how this thing goes. Just be kind out there. I mean, just be kind out there. That's all you have to do. Be kind out there. That's what you got to do. Chris, good to see you, my friend. We'll see you on the other side. Everybody else, please take care of yourself and enjoy the rest of Philanthropy Day 2022. We'll see you on the other side. Let's have a quick peek here. Might as well just end with be kind. That's a good way to do it. Take care, everybody. We'll see you. You know the drill. Yeah, just be kind out there, everybody. Just be kind. Just be kind out there. I mean, that's all you have to do. Just be kind out there, everybody. Hey, just be kind. It's just be kind out there, everybody. Just be kind. That's all you have to do. Just be kind out there, everybody. Just be kind out there. I mean, that's all you have to do. Just be kind out there. I mean, just be kind out there. Just be kind out there. I mean, just be kind out there.